To go oyster farming with a former stock dealer who traded her life in high finance for a life on the high seas. Located in Scarborough, Maine, Abigail Carroll is the founder and owner of Nonesuch Oysters. Your background is so fascinating to me because you went from having a graduate degree from Columbia University, trading stocks in Paris, and now you have an oyster farm. How did you get here?
Well, I was living in Paris. I came back for the summer and I met somebody who wanted to start an oyster farm. So I thought, okay, well, I'll help out with this business plan. The one sort of thing I said before I agreed to it was, but I'm not getting on the water. 10 months later, I was buying waders at Cabela's and the farm was mine to run. Today we're producing between 500,000 and 1 million oysters a year. We're expanding into other seafood products that we're now shipping to people's homes. We do tours. We're trying to share the Maine experience with the rest of the country. I had never run an outboard motor before. I'd never eaten an oyster before. I'd certainly never envisioned myself as a farmer before. It was a steep learning curve, but over 10 years, I've actually gotten the hang of it.
I can tell you have such a passion for what you do. What's your favorite part about oystering?
It's this beautiful experience. You're wading in the water. Sometimes you wear a snorkel and you can see all the little hermit crabs, all the other little sea life living together and how they exist together. It's just very zen, beautiful experience to be out there hand-culling oysters.
What separates Nonesuch oysters from other oysters?
What's interesting is that everybody on the East Coast, from Canada all the way into the Gulf, is growing the same species of oysters. So there's really only two things that make the difference for any brand of oysters. One is the method of farming. The second is the environment. We have salt and freshwater influences that are very distinct and very prominent. So we've got a real nice blend in both of our oysters of salinity and sweetness. Sweetness from the marsh, the brackish water that comes down, and salinity from the incoming tides. So every year we buy new seed, just like any land farmer. They're actually baby oysters, which are commonly known as spat. When we get them, they're just a couple millimeters, and then they grow pretty quickly. And by the end of the summer, they should be like a solid inch. Those baby oysters especially love warm water, and the more flow that an oyster gets, the faster it'll grow.
And by the looks of it, there's a lot of these little guys in here.
So we brought in 2 million oyster seeds this year.
Wow.
So that's our biggest crop. For the first year, all of our oysters spend a year on the surface in gear. And then the second year, we split them up into two groups. The Abigail pearls stay on the surface, and the Nonesuch emeralds are finished on the bottom. Water quality is everything with oysters because oysters are filter feeders. They nourish themselves by filtering water and absorbing the nutrients. The marsh all around us serves as a giant filter. So it keeps the water incredibly clean here. These are the oysters that we've ground seeded after the first year, and they grow free range until we're ready to harvest them.
Okay, I see a bunch around me. It's easy to see why you call them emeralds because they have this beautiful green color that I can actually see from here. So let me pick a couple of these. Look at those. I've never seen an oyster look like this before.
These little microalgae attach to the shell, and you can't scratch this off. This is actually a real patina, and I just thought they were so beautiful that we decided to grow some of the oysters this way. Our Nonesuch emeralds have a really nice flavor profile. They have a lot of earthy sweetness that comes from just being on the bottom. They're a little meatier than the pearls, and they're a little sweeter than the pearls, and they have these little earth tones that are really, really spectacular. They're a really special oyster. These fluted bits are indicative of a high current area. We have crazy high currents here, which are wonderful for oyster growth. You can start to see these kind of growth rings. You see little rings, but you can see some more prominent differences in the rings, and those suggest years. These are the Abigail pearls. By the fall, we will be able to start harvesting some from these bags. We have to flip them with some regularity because they get fouled by algae. By flipping the bags, the sun dries up all the algae, and then when we flip them back over, it can wash away. The Abigail pearls tend to grow a little bit more narrowly because they have neighbors, whereas the emeralds are loose on the bottom, and so they can fan out a little bit more easily. And interestingly, on flavor, I mean, it's a more delicate oyster than the emerald, which is a little bit chewier, but there's such an earthy taste to the emeralds that you don't taste the salt as much, whereas the pearls have a very clean, briny flavor to them.
After a long day of harvesting, it was finally time to taste our haul. Abby, this is my kind of picnic, and in terms of freshness, it won't get any better than this.
We've got a nice little display here of our Abigail pearls and our Nonesuch emerald. I love to serve oysters with lemon, but I also love to serve them with a mignonette sauce. You add basically 1 part shallots to 2 parts or 3 parts vinegar, and you're good to go. The acidity of the vinegar is really nice with the salty of the brine and the oyster. So it's a really, really nice pairing.
So next up, I'm guessing, is shucking the oysters.
Right.
I've never done this before, so do you mind teaching me
I
how
don't
this
mind
happens?
teaching you at all. It is finesse, not force. Another little saying we have is wiggle, wiggle, pop. You want to hold the oyster with that hand.
Okay.
And just get in there.
Wiggle, wiggle, pop.
Wiggle,
kids.
wiggle, pop.
Ooh, there we go.
Very good. Now
Okay.
slide the knife under the lid, right,
Okay.
to release the meat.
Okay.
That's the adduction.
There it is.
Wow,
Yes.
perfect. Yours is
Okay.
better than mine.
It's hard to believe those 2 oysters, you grew them just within feet of each other.
Exactly. It continues to blow my mind. But these are, again, the same species, the same year oyster, the same seed, and just by treating them differently in that second year, they grow into truly different oysters. It's so exciting.
Okay, well, bon appetit.
Cheers. Bon appetit. Thank you.